Thank you all for being here today for the program titled The Coexistence of American Culture and Islam. We're going to begin with having Jana Abdul Hamid recite to us Surah Al-Hujurat, ayahs 13 through 16.
وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلدكم من أعمالكم شيئا إن الله غفور رحيم إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for being here today for our program. We have three speakers who will be speaking today and sharing with us their experiences, knowledge, and expertise regarding the topic, followed by a 15-minute question and answer discussion. But before I begin our program, I'd like to make two announcements. The first one is, inshallah, we'll be praying Isha, prayer Jama'ah, after the program, so don't worry about trying to catch the prayer at 8. The second announcement is that we are happy to announce the ISG Education Committee that we have a new coordinator for the child care. So her name is Sister Mas'ada An-Nabi, and she's responsible for the child care, children 10 years and under, and she's going to have an educational program for them as well. If you choose to have your children here that are above the age of 10, please have them sitting next to you so that they're not disruptive. So inshallah, now we'll be starting our program with our first speaker, Sheikh Ismaeel Chartier. Sheikh Ismaeel is currently serving as Imam at the Clifton Mosque in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was previously an Imam for several years in Denver, Colorado. He attended Al-Azhar University in Egypt and holds multiple ijazas in Hadith, Fiqh, and Aqidah from great scholars in Egypt, Morocco, India, and Syria. He is also the founder of the Ibn Malik Center for Arabic and Quranic Studies. Sheikh Ismaeel has dedicated himself to the eradication of extremism and is committed to open dialogue with the greater community. He has appeared on Huda TV, Guide Us TV, and Peace TV, as well as also served on the dialogue board of the Abrahamic Faith Initiative, Habitat for Humanity's Interfaith Relations Board, and the Colorado Imams Council. Please help me in welcoming Sheikh Ismaeel.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Forgive my dress. I broke my ankle, and so I'm not as fancy as I normally am, which is not at all fancy. I kind of looked at this thing about culture and Islam in a little bit different way, and about coexisting between cultures, the Islamic culture and the Western culture. And I want to start off, how long do I have to talk about? How long? 15 minutes. Okay, so strap in because I'm going to go fast. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions, they weren't at war with the world's cultures. They weren't at war with ethnocentrices, but they were entertained by honest, accommodating, and generally positive views of the other. And I think this is important when we start to talk about Islamic understanding of culture, especially Western culture, and the other. Because we tend to forget that we are the other in this paradigm. The Muslims living in the West are the other. We're not the majority. This isn't Egypt or Syria or Pakistan or another place like this. We are the other. So we really have to start to look at things from a pluralistic kind of diet, from a pluralistic kind of understanding, okay? So you guys with me so far on that? Sweet. I'm not getting too crazy. So the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did not look upon human culture in terms of black and white, nor did they have a drastic divide in human societies. So they didn't try to divide everybody up. They didn't try to say this person is from me, this person is from you, this person is from here. They didn't try to make everybody the other. They tried to make everybody the one. So we look at this in the way they understood culture. So if we look at how the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, if we look at the story of when the Abyssinians, the Ethiopians, had entered Islam, and they came to the Prophet ﷺ's mosque, and they were overjoyed during the holiday season, and they were throwing spears, and they were dancing, and Umar radiallahu anhu, he went to them and he was like, you guys have to cut that out. You have to stop that. That is just an absolutely ridiculous thing to do because it's not from us. That doesn't exist within the Arab culture. And the Prophet ﷺ, he went to them and he told them that, you know, these are the sons of Arfida. This is their culture. This is what they do. It's not our job to dictate their cultural understanding of the world. And this is what has separated Islam stereotypically from all other religions. Islam is not at war with cultures. Islam didn't come to destroy people's cultural heritage. On the realistic side of it, Islam is like a clear liquid, a clear water that's sweet to taste, and it smells good, and it runs through a riverbed, and you can see the color of the rocks underneath it. So if you go to India, Islam in India is completely Indian and completely Islamic. If you go to Egypt, Islam in Egypt is completely Islamic but completely Egyptian. It looks different. It acts different than it does in India. If you go to Saudi Arabia, Islam is completely different. I'm talking culturally different. I'm not talking the 5 pillars and how we pray and when we pray and things like this, but the cultural understandings of Islam are different. We in the West need to have a cultural understanding of our religion that fits into the paradigm that we're living in. It lives into our modern context. I'm not saying we change the religion of Islam because that's a ridiculous thing. There's no reformation in Islam. There's a reformation within us. We have to be the ones that change. But we have to understand that if we try to mesh Egyptian culture, Syrian culture, Indian culture, all the cultures from everywhere else in the world into a bubble and call it Islam in America, it's going to collapse. And it's going to create a paradigm of either victimization, to where we always look at ourselves as the victim and people are out to get us, which is also an unrealistic assertion of the world and the way the world works. Not everybody is out to get us. There are people who are out to get us, and there is harm, but there are a lot of people who love Muslims and love Islam. Or it creates this ultra-pieistic ideology of ourselves that we're somehow superior to everybody else because we have this thing they don't. Neither one of these are healthy understandings of who we are. And truly, the Muslims in America are far above either one of those understandings. We are neither victims, nor are we superior to anybody else. And if we are superior to anybody, it's because Allah has given us taqwa. And the only one who can judge that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my argument is not that we have to learn how to coexist with the other. We truly have to have a radical shift in the way that we view ourselves in this country. For many, many years, Islam in this country has been viewed as something foreign, as something that doesn't belong here. And a lot of the brothers and sisters who come here from different countries, the whole goal is to come here and go back home. That could no longer be the goal. This has to be home. When the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca and traveled to Medina, they became citizens of Medina. They became full citizens of that city. They joined the military. They became part of the political structure. They became the defenders and the carers of Medina. They created a culture. We need to create our own culture. And it's not just that we must do it, it's we have to do it. If we don't create a culture that is purely 100% Islamic, 100% Muslim, and 100% American, then we will fail our children. We will continue to create schizophrenic children who don't know where they belong, who have 2 Facebook pages, one for Baba and one for their friends, who have 2 Twitter accounts, who have 2 lives that they're living, and we can't do that. And you can look at the kids because they're all kind of smiling because they know it's the truth. So we have to create a culture that is fully American. I call it the sacred hyphen. There's this sacred hyphen in the word American Muslim. This hyphen, it contains our sociological identity, which is American. And then it contains our spiritual state, which is Muslim. Because we've moved Islam from being a state with Allah, from being surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to being an identity that needs to be defended. And you can't defend a state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you defend surrender? So we have to change the way we think about cultural identity as Muslims living in the West. And the only way we can truly change that idea is to be both. Fully American, 100% American, with everything that is offered to us by the citizenry of this country, everything that is here, and 100% Muslim. We don't sell out our deen. We don't throw out our religion to be here. We don't take off our hijabs and wear short shorts and do all this stuff. We don't do that, right? But we embrace the culture because it's not all evil. I lived in the Middle East for a very long time and I never saw social welfare. I find social welfare in America where the poor are taken care of. That's an Islamic idea. I find governments that don't deal with oppression. That's an Islamic idea. We actually can have a better Islamic future here. And I was actually talking to a brother beforehand about how the revival of the Islamic world can come from here. The revival of the Islamic world can come from here. And I almost guarantee it will come from the West. It'll come from our children who have an understanding of what freedom is. It'll come from our children who have an understanding of what justice is. But they'll also be grounded and rooted in the traditions that are Islam. That's what we have to do. We can't say, no, you're Syrian, you have to act this way. No, Baba, you're Egyptian, this is the way we do things. No, you're Indian, we do it this way. You are, but your children aren't. Your children have added another hyphen into that. They've added the American understanding of things. And the way we have to understand things truly is that Americans and everybody else in the world filters things. We have filters. So when I hear the word justice, it means something completely different to me than someone who lived in Soviet Russia, right? When I hear the word freedom, it has something completely different meaning to me than someone who's locked in prison. Because I'm putting it through my filters of my education, my life experiences, my culture, my understanding of how the world works. When we move our children here, when we move here, our understanding of how the world works changes. It should change. You guys follow me on that? If it's not changing, then we're not being involved in our society. We're not being involved in our culture, not being involved outside of these walls. And the more the American Muslims stay inside these walls and the less we stay outside of these walls, people like Donald Trump and Islamophobic xenophobes will rise up because we're not involved. We're not involved. I met with 12 rabbinical students today from Hebrew Union College. So 12 soon-to-be rabbis came to Clifton Mosque and we sat down in the Musalla and we had a conversation about what it meant to be Jewish and American and what it meant to be Muslim and American. And it was probably one of the strangest conversations I've ever had because I'm a white American. I'm an Irish guy. And for years, I grew up with white privilege, 28 years to be exact, where I was just a white guy. Just everyone else on the street, no one noticed me, I was just a guy. And then I became a Muslim and I lost an identity that made me like everybody else. And I realized at that moment in my life that things had drastically changed for me and for my Caucasian wife. That we were now the other. We were now the people who had to look for how to be treated. How were people treating us? Were we being followed in stores? Were we being harassed by the police because who we are? Were people doing these things to us because of our religion? But what I've realized in this 15 years that I've been Muslim is that we have to be involved. I know Karen Dabdi is going to talk a lot more about this, but even as Muslims together, we need to be involved with each other. We need to know each other. We need to build not a Dayton community or a Cincinnati community, but we need to build a Southern Ohio community. And then we need to build an Ohio community, and then a Midwestern community, and so on, until there's an American Muslim identity. That's not based on politics. That's not based on political understandings of one group or another group, but is based on the way we live our lives in this country, the way we raise our children in this country, the way we are with one another in this country. Most people moved here because they had hopes and they had dreams of something much better for their children than when they were currently living. We didn't realize that that came with changing the way we look at the world. We didn't realize that that change came with our children maybe not wanting to speak the language that we speak. Maybe we speak to them in Arabic and they speak back to us in English. That happens quite often. Maybe we speak to them in Hindi or Urdu and they speak back to us in English because they're fully American. They identify themselves 100% with this culture. And this culture is materialistic. It's commercialism. It cares nothing about substance. So if we let them go about their business and we let them create a schizophrenic understanding of the world where it's one side is for the masjid and the other side is for the world, they're going to not have any clue on how to maneuver through the world properly. But if we train them how to be Muslim, if we teach them the things that matter the most to us, Tawheed, love of Allah, love of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we teach them the core values that are Islam, but at the same time we teach them that those core values that are Islam are core values that are American values also. There's no difference between the core values of us and the core values of this country. Thomas Jefferson stole most of his ideas from the Quran when he was penning the Declaration of Independence. So there's no difference between us. So we as Muslims need to take advantage of this opportunity that's presented before us today. And it's an opportunity to redefine who we are in this society. Not who we are in that society, but who we are in this society. Who we want to be, what we want to be, what we want for our children. And that's what we have to do to coexist in this country, is define who we are. Not let people define who we are. There are millions of people talking about Islam and Muslims living in the West, and none of them are us. Other people are writing our narrative. They're writing who we are. They're saying what we believe. They're saying what we stand for, and we're sitting quietly by. This is our opportunity to create us, to rewrite everything people have said we are and say this is who we are. We're activists for freedom. We're activists for justice. We're activists for us. That's what we need. To create us. And it's easy. It truly is easy. But it's the hardest thing we're ever going to do, because it takes us coming together and being one and speaking with one voice and understanding that together we are powerful. That together we are powerful. But if we keep dividing ourselves on Jum'ah, if you leave after Salat al-Jum'ah, you see the Syrians are here, the Iraqis are there, the Philistinis are there. You see everybody is divided. We'll never do anything worth anything. And what we're teaching our children is that we say everyone in Islam is one, we're all equal. And then they say, well, how come you're not hanging out with everybody? How come I can't have my black friends over? And they see this hypocrisy within us and they turn away from it. We need to create this identity that is based on Quran and Sunnah and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of each other and the love of good. That's how we coexist within America. That's how we coexist within the West. We don't reinvent our religion. Because there's absolutely nothing wrong with our religion. Wallahi, it is perfect in its form. It was given to us by the creator and sustainer of the universe, and in it is nothing but absolute perfection. The problem is us. That we don't take this beautiful religion and truly live it, truly put it into our lives. The only way that we'll have any social change in this world is if we have internal reformation. If we change who we are and we work together to create a better place and a better space for our families. So I have to ask before, because I know my time is running out because I like to talk a lot and I like the way my voice sounds like all imams do. How many of you came here for a better life for your family? Raise your hand. How many of you came here for a better life for your family? How many of you came here because you had to? Like you got to get on the plane. Sharif, you were born here, man. But when we ask ourselves that, are we doing it? We've given our children more financial health. We've given them more things. We've given them iPads and iPods, and we've given them video game systems, and we've given them the flyest new Jordans, and we've given them everything that they could ever want of a materialistic way of this world so they can fit in with everybody in high school and be just like them. But have we told them why they shouldn't be just like them, and why Islam is something that purifies us and makes us great? It's not new Jordans. It's not that new iPhone 6S Plus. Right? It's not those things. So we have to remember as parents, I have to remind myself this a lot. It's not material things I give my children that make them better and make them better off for me being here. It's what I teach them, and I teach them how to take the charge of the world from here. We are the only time in the history of the Muslim Ummah that a minority of Muslims have lived in the heart of a superpower. That's what we teach our children, that they have a voice, that if they want a free and liberated Palestine, they can do it from here. If they want a civil war in Syria to stop, they can do it from here. But it takes us telling them that and teaching them that and not being afraid ourselves to engage. To go sit in a room full of rabbis and talk about the Palestinian-Israeli issue. It's not an issue, it's a genocide. And to be honest with our voices. But it takes us to create that atmosphere. It takes us to create a new identity that's based on surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through a Western contextual understanding. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum.